No, the thumbnail is not clickbait. I have it here for the end of this video, so hang on. Hello friends and family. I know the vast majority of my audience is Australian and they probably know what not to do in Australia, but maybe there is one or another tourist stumbling across this video that I can help to avoid making a terrible mistake. So if I miss anything really important, please let me know in the comment what I and other travelers should not do in your beautiful country. So let's get into it. Australians are the nicest and most supportive people that I have ever met. You ask someone for jumper leads, 80% chance that this guy will just lay under your car and try to properly fix it. When I asked the supervisor of the first farm that I worked on for a toolbox to put my newly purchased rooftop tent on my car, he ended up doing it himself and I just stood there and helped him a bit. When I stayed in that exact rooftop tent in a caravan park in South Victoria, it rained for 3 days straight. In the caravan park, the owner felt sorry for me that I would sleep in the rooftop tent with all the rain coming down. So she offered me to sleep in a caravan that she had for sale, and it was displayed on the caravan park with like the sales label on and everything. And I slept in there for 3 days straight, free of charge. The list goes on and on and on. And what I want to say is, do not refuse to help someone who is in need. These are good people. Get your ass up and give something back to them. Keep in mind that there are a few animals in Australia, and I'm not trying to say that you should watch your step when you walk through the bush at night. That's kind of common sense. No, sometimes bigger animals than snakes and spiders wander around your car at night when you sleep in it. And so it happened that a dingo has stolen one of my shoes. There is just no other explanation than that a dingo took it. So don't leave your shoes outside on the ground when you're camping. These shoes were quite expensive and I'm still in grief. Another advice that I can give you when it comes to animals is do not walk under trees when it's getting dark. You might find yourself tangled up in a spider web where for sure was no spider web 20 minutes ago. These spiders are damn fast crafting their webs. And I'm not talking small spider webs that you see in every corner of your house. No, I'm talking human-sized spider webs. And the spiders that make it, they look truly terrifying. Maybe it was just bad luck, but it happened to me a few times and I for sure stay away from trees when it's getting dark. Probably the biggest mistake that I could make in Australia was buying a Land Rover. Do not, and I can't repeat myself often enough, do not buy a European car. BMW, Volvo, Mercedes, all these German European cars are not the same in Australia as they are in their native countries or in Europe. And they are freaking expensive to fix. And this car was a money pit. Do not buy a European car. Buy a Toyota. Just buy a Toyota. Speaking of cars, you have just purchased your new car, maybe even a four-wheel drive, and you want to give it a go. You drive along a normal road and suddenly you see a gravel road leading into a very interesting looking forest. Naturally, that triggers your urge to explore. You're a traveler after all, and you want to see what lies behind these low-hanging branches. But as you traverse the initially enticing gravel path into the enchanting forest, the road deteriorates and the overhanging branches become relentless assailants thrashing at your vehicle. Desperate to retreat, you discover the road narrowing, leaving you with no option but to maneuver in reverse, surrounded by the tight embrace of the mysterious woodlands. So yeah, do not pull into a random gravel road when you don't know where it leads. It might be very hard to get back out there. So these are the things that I could come up with, but let's see what the internet has to say about it. Alright, let's just search for what not to do in Australia. Oh man, I actually never made it to one of these pools. I think there are actually a few around, but I never made it. But I'll be back and I'll do it. Alright, let's see if there is a list. Alright, the first one's actually a good one. Never get off the bus without thanking the bus driver. That really surprised me when I first came to Sydney, when I arrived in Sydney airport, and I obviously took the bus to get to my hotel, and everyone that was getting off the bus were thanking the bus driver when they got off, and of course I immediately adapted to that. I also said thanks mate, whatever. That's a pretty good one, yeah. Never think you don't need to swim between the flags at the beach. You might feel as though you're a strong and competent swimmer, or you might see our crystal clear waters and be tempted to dive in right away. Actually, something like that happened to me in, or something like that. I can imagine that they're talking about like waves pulling you out. That happened to me in Thailand actually, before I went to Australia. I traveled Thailand for a bit, and I tell you, I almost died. The waves just kept sucking me into the depth of the ocean, and I just couldn't get back, and I really had to swim and to take all my strength to actually make it back to the beach. That was a horrifying experience. Thank God I'm quite tall, so eventually I managed to dig my feet into the sand and push myself kind of out of the water. But it was actually a very life-threatening experience to me, and there were no lifeguards around or anything. So that was the moment where I realized, okay, I should probably really stick to the rules and pay attention to the flags. So in Australia, that's actually what I did. When I saw flags or anything, I really try to stick to the rules, because I didn't want to have that same experience that I had in Thailand again. That was horrifying. Don't ask someone, but where are you actually from? I did that mistake a few times, and I didn't mean it offensive. It's just, Australia is still such a young country, and a lot of people have still a kind of a connection to their original overseas country. But I have also received a few bad looks when I ask, like, yeah, but what's your ancestry, right? They say, yeah, I'm Australian. And yeah, after the third person that I've asked, just because I'm interested, in different cultures and immigration and whatever, of course I ask, I want to know, what's your story? Like, did your grandparents come from, and how did they do it? And I was just interested in that. But a lot of people do not want to talk about it. They just want to see themselves as purely Australian, and I respect that. So I also stopped asking that question. Yeah, that's actually kind of the looks that I would be getting if I ask someone, so that's pretty accurate. Don't assume your sports are better than ours. AFL is actually my favorite sports in the world. I was never really into sports. Of course, I watch soccer when there was the World Cup and Germany played, but I never really understood anyone really supporting their home city country and travel to every game and whatever. I was never really into that. But AFL is such an interesting sport. I was introduced to AFL by a good friend of mine. He's an Australian guy just about my age, and he worked with me on the first farm in North New South Wales. And he was playing AFL himself, like in a low, very, very low, like hobby league. And they wanted me to play as well because they were short on players. But I had to decline the offer because, yeah, it was just too dangerous. I'm on a working visa there. I didn't have much money and I couldn't afford to break a finger or whatever because I wouldn't have been able to work. So I had to decline, which was sad because I'd love to play. And yeah, but awesome game. I attended a few amateur games. Unfortunately, didn't make it to an actual AFL game, but I would love to go to the stadium one day. And I do have a favorite team, yeah. Of course, the team that I was introduced to by my Australian friend. Go Magpies! Don't ever refuse chicken salt. I think every time I was asked if I want chicken salt or just plain salt, I said chicken salt, even though I don't know what the actual difference is. I just went with it, and the food tasted great, but I don't know if it was for the chicken salt or if the food would have tasted the same if I had just ordered regular salt. I really don't know what the actual difference is, but a lot of people talked about it, and I've heard a lot of Australians recommending chicken salt. Have you tried chicken salt yet? Have you tried it? Oh, you should try chicken salt. Quite a few people told me that. And I always went with chicken salt, but I think I never actually tasted it so that I can actually, tell the difference. But yeah, I mean, food in Australia is great. Maybe it is because of the chicken salt. I don't know. Don't do Crocodile Dundee jokes. I want to avoid any kind of cliche tourist things anyway, so I would never dare to do that. What I did in Australia was I brought up Steve Irwin quite a bit, but only because I'm a huge fan. Crocodile Hunter was the series for me when I was a kid or young adolescent boy, and every day I tuned into Crocodile Hunter. So yeah, I talked about Steve Irwin quite a bit, but only because I'm a massive fan. Don't actually tell someone the truth when they ask how you're going. Yeah, despite how it sounds, it's not a genuine inquiry as to your emotional well-being unless it comes from an actual friend. The only acceptable answer is good. I've been joking about that so often. I always thought, what would happen if I went to the grocery store and the cashier would ask me, how are you doing? And I'd be like, oh, thanks for asking. Actually, I've had the worst day ever. I never did it, but I thought, like, what would happen if I would do it? But yeah, that's also just a very weird thing. When I went to Australia the first time, a lot of people were asking me how I was doing, how are you, whatever. And sometimes when, like, I always said good, like, of course I didn't want to tell anyone my life story, and I always felt good, like, mostly. And I asked other people as well, good, how are you? And they would just say, thanks. Like, yeah, but that doesn't answer my question. Like, a lot of people would just say, hey, how are you going? And the answer is, how are you going? So it's just, how are you going, and you pass each other, and that's it. That was to the very end. I mean, still, it is quite confusing to me what the correct answer to a how are you going is. If I just say, good, how about you? And they say, good, thanks. Or if I just say, how are you doing? Or if I just say, thanks. And I don't know. I still don't know what the correct answer to that is. Quite a few tips there. I probably should have read them before I went to Australia, because I went there completely blind. Don't underestimate how long it takes to get to places. Yes, it's crazy how big Australia is. I knew it was big, obviously, but you don't experience it until you've experienced it. I landed in Sydney. The first job that we had was in Coffs Harbour, which is about, I think, an 8-hour drive, if I remember correctly. So I went from Sydney to Coffs Harbour, which was the first big drive that I had in Australia, 8 hours in one go. And it felt like we have made so many kilometers. It felt like we've crossed the whole country. And when I arrived in Coffs Harbour, you know, I looked at my phone and I checked Google Maps where we were, and it looked like we barely made any progress. We've literally just driven for 8 hours, and on the map, on Google Maps, it still looks like we're in the same place. It still looks like we're in Sydney. That was really insane. Crazy. What the frick? Don't eat Vegemite. The whole website is now not trustworthy anymore. I mean, no way an Australian has written that. Don't eat. What the? Everyone hates Vegemite, even American children. Well, I don't know what American children have to do with that, but everyone hates Vegemite. I still do it. Still here. Still prepared. We're gonna have fun. Everybody don't eat. Vegemite is the best thing that has happened to me while I was traveling Australia. I eat a Vegemite toast every day, and I spread it thicker and thicker each time. Best thing that have ever happened to me. The fuck, girl, you definitely ate it wrong. Have someone properly explain it to you. Right, I think I'm done. These keep repeating themselves, so I think we're good. Okay, friends, I told you that the thumbnail was no clickbait. I'm doing it. I'm gonna eat a full spoon. That's actually a really full spoon. I hope you can see it, because I can't see what's on the camera screen. I really hope you see how much that is. That's a teaspoon, not a tablespoon, but I think it's more than enough. Yeah. It's also not chocolate or anything. It's Vegemite. So yeah, let's give it a go. But first, you should definitely subscribe. If you do not subscribe and you still watch me eat it, you should feel bad. So yeah. Have you subscribed yet? You should feel bad if you don't. I don't know. Have I taken? Is that enough preparation for me? Let's go. It's great. I try to I want to be honest with you. I was trying to do it with straight face, but it's actually pretty disgusting. But I think a lot of people that are not used to Vegemite would have had a much worse reaction than I had right now. Oh yeah. No cut. All gone. It's actually less worse than I thought. Still disgusting, and I can't wait to drink some water now because it's so salty. Right guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you subscribe. It was fun today. Hope to see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.